Welcome to Women Finding Clarity, the podcast that ignites your inner power and guides you on a journey to uncover the boundless potential of the universe in life and in business. I'm Pascal Cook-Fernandez, your host and life transformation coach. Join me each week as we align our energies, elevate our businesses, and thrive in every aspect of life. In each episode, we dive deep into topics like the secrets of raising your vibration, crafting irresistible offers, and amplifying your impact. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, this podcast is your compass to navigate the realms of limitless success. If you are ready to align your energy, elevate your business, and truly thrive, subscribe to Women Finding Clarity now and get ready to embark on a life-changing journey. Until next time, stay empowered and keep seeking clarity. And remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Hello, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity. I'm your host, Pascal Cook-Fernandez. I just finished a 3-day virtual wealth retreat, and all I can say is wowza. I feel so drained, yet so energized all at the same time. My cup is overflowing. So what does this mean for you? It means that I feel even more grounded in the clarity that I'm bringing to you week after week. New guests, new topics, and new energy for you to use in your business. For now, my big question for you is, what's the difference between money and wealth? Just think about that for a moment. What is money? What is wealth? On the surface, money is a medium of exchange, and wealth is an accumulation of assets. That seems simple, right? And I'm guessing that when you think about wealth, you immediately think about money. Am I right? Yes, and. And it's a yes, and because money itself is not an indicator of financial health. Wealth represents long-term financial health and stability. It provides security, the ability to generate passive income. But I would be remiss if I didn't point out to you that wealth is truly about more than that. True wealth is a yes and. True wealth includes financial abundance, and it also includes abundance in all areas of your life. And having a truly wealthy business requires balance and abundance in all of these areas. So now, think about your own life. Are you wealthy? Are you lacking in one or more of these areas? I invite you to spend some time feeling into each area of your life. What feels abundant or wealthful? And what feels like it's less than or in debt? Are you spiritually abundant, but your mental health is in debt? Maybe your business is financially abundant, but your physical health is poor. To move forward in your life and business, to be truly wealthy, starts with just noticing. And when you've done an inventory of your true wealth, I invite you to schedule a complimentary Biz Clarity session where together you and I will create a mini plan for true wealth in your life and business. As a reminder, there's a link in show notes to schedule your complimentary Biz Clarity session. And as we're thinking about the future and our true wealth, I want to introduce you to this evening's guest. Cindy Carrillo founded Work Options Group, a leading provider of work-life solutions for employees of Fortune 500 companies, in 1996. After the sale of the company in 2008, she used her more than 40 years of business experience, including private enterprise, retail, nonprofit, and government sector work, to start 2 new ventures, Nxt Business Coaching and CC Blue Ranch. The combination of these two led to the creation of a unique coaching experience, the Immersion, where clients join Cindy at the ranch for a 2-day deep dive into formulating a plan for the next transformational phase of their lives, what Cindy calls finding your next. Cindy also provides ongoing business and life coaching with her clients through Zoom, phone, or in person meetings on a bi weekly basis. Her inspirational, engaging book, Finding Your Next, which tells the story of her transformation from a CEO to a rancher, highlighting both her story and the lessons she learned along the way, is available on Amazon and wherever your favorite books are sold. Today, Cindy and her partner in transformation and life, Matthew, live on 35 acres at their CC Blue Ranch near Ridgway, Colorado, overlooking the magnificent San Juan mountain range. It's a lifestyle you have to experience to believe. So without further ado, welcome to Women Finding Clarity, Cindy Carrillo. Cindy, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here in looking through everything that you're about, your website, all your gallery of photos. I literally just want to teleport and just put myself into those photos.
Thank you. It's a pretty nice life that I've been able to step into as my next.
Yes, I love it. And so in reading, I've shared your bio with listeners, and in thinking about your transition from CEO to rancher, it
Yeah.
is fascinating to me. It's inspiring to me. And I'm just wondering if you could share, is there a pivotal moment that led you to make such a dramatic change in your career and in your life?
It's I I think it's less of a like one pivotal moment. I don't think that's how change necessarily happens. I think we get a whole bunch of those little moments where it's like a clue, it's an inkling, it's a hint that we're ready to make a change in our lives. Now, there were circumstances leading up to my making a change from being a CEO in a company that I founded and grew for 20 years to moving to 35 open acres in rural Colorado and basically becoming a ranch girl. You know, it, but it started with an understanding that it was time for me to make a major change in my life. I'd been running that company for 20 some odd years, and I grew it like I grew my family. And I ran it like I kind of was the mother of the company. I still refer to it as the mother of all companies. And it was an extraordinary experience. There was nothing bad about it. So when it came time to leave the company and stop being a CEO and actually sell the company and move on, it was from a place of opportunity and need to move on and change. It was very optimistic. It was very positive. It wasn't about the company being bad or I was no longer good at my job. I went through some stuff along the way to make me question whether or not I was the right person to take it forward. And I actually came to the point where I realized I wasn't. I was done. That I'm make it up kind of gal, not a maintenance and sell more of the same stuff kind of gal. So the company had gotten to a point where it had grown up enough that it didn't need me to make stuff up anymore. So then I sold the company, and I guess that was the big pivotal moment where I was like, okay, my goodness, what's next? And that's when the opportunity to really redesign my life, moving forward into a life that had all of the criteria that was important to me about how I wanted to live moving forward. I was in my early 50s. So, and I just sold a company. So there were a lot of choices for me.
And that's amazing to have a lot of choices, right? It can be you're very blessed to have a lot of choices. You set your life up in a way and worked really hard in a way that allowed for a lot of choice. But a lot of choice can also be very difficult because sometimes when you're trying to decide, it's really hard to kind of put a stake in the ground and say this is the way.
Absolutely. I actually think that many opportunities and many choices can be quite paralyzing to people. And there's a lot of things that block us at that point when you've got a lot of choices. And I went through them, and I talk about this in the book that I wrote about finding your next, where there are there are what I call blockers that get in our way that stop us from moving forward. And I think the number one blocker that gets in our way is the fear of the unknown. I mean, oh my goodness, who wants to go up to the cliff of the abyss, look out into total blackness in front of you where you have no idea what it looks like, and jump? I mean,
Right.
nobody's going to do that.
Right.
So we end up having a lot of questions, and we need definition and we need clarity. And in order to move forward, we're so much more comfortable when at least we can see what's in front of us and there's a path for us to go. We may not be able to answer all of the questions or have all of the details worked out, but we want enough clarity. And when I saw this land that became available in rural Colorado, when I started looking for that next opportunity for myself, this next phase of my life, oh my goodness. I stood on the property and man, I could see sort of that opportunity unfold right in front of me. I mean, I didn't know what the details were. I didn't know where I'd build a house. I didn't know if I was going to have a barn and where it would be or a garden. But I could feel people coming and laughing, and I could see my family coming and our friends coming. And there was a vision that I could see the path forward. And that was enough clarity to sort of dispel that fear of the unknown. But another blocker, if I may, that
Absolutely.
kind of gets in our way as well is the fear of failure. Because, oh my goodness, I'm going to make this huge change in my life. I'm going to redesign it. All that sounds so lovely and romantic and sort of, wow, you're blessed. Oh my goodness, you look how lucky you are. But what if I screw it up? What if I can't do it? What if I fail? And I had to get to the point where I realized that failure just didn't exist. And I think we get hung up on the idea of failure. And I've come to understand that failure only exists if we don't learn from our mistakes. Because who knows everything and who's going to do everything perfectly? It's ridiculous. It doesn't exist, right? So if we let that go and we embrace sort of the mistakes and the trial and the error and the experience of doing something and open ourselves up to just learning and evolving and growing from it, then there's no failure, right? So I had to get to that point because otherwise I was not going to become a ranch girl.
And that's exactly right. You do have to get to that point. You have to get beyond what will people say? What if it doesn't work out? What if, all the what ifs? What if it does
What
work
if?
out?
What if
Right?
it does, right?
What
And
if it does?
I know, and it's a huge change of perspective. I think we're hardwired as humans to kind of go to the dark side and the negative and block ourselves because it is safer.
100%. It's self protection. Our
Yes,
brain does it for us. We don't even have to think about it, right?
that's right.
It's natural. It's natural that our brain wants to try to protect us. And at the same time, if we're not willing to put in the work to override that amygdala, to override the fear, to override the doubt,
Yeah.
how do we grow?
It's so true. So there's a couple of things that I learned. And you put your finger on it when you said the what ifs. Oh man, do we go, what if this, what if that? I think that's a way for us to understand that we are lacking information and clarity. So if we're asking ourselves, what if this, what if that, what if I move to rural Colorado and nobody comes to visit? What if my children hate me? They were adults, by the way, and had their own lives, but still, they could hate me for moving from them, which is not a thing parents do.
Right.
Usually your children move, you don't move. I was moving. What if I can't do it? What if I, whatever? That's an indication that we need more information. So if we use our what if questions to go out and then say, oh, I'll have to address that. Oh, I need to figure that one out instead of shutting us down right at the start. The other really insidious one is we use the word but. So we start off with a really positive statement like, oh my goodness, I want to move to the mountains and have this place with a beautiful view. And I want to live out my life with animals and garden and do all these wonderful things and coach. And then I say, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I could find a place. Well, I don't know. We totally negate the positive opening part of our sentence by putting in a but and then going to the negative. So we want to feel better, like I'm open to these ideas and possibilities and opportunities. Of course I am. But I don't think I could possibly do that. I can't afford it. I don't have the time for that. I have children. I have this. When would I do that? So I stopped using the word but and I use the word and because the word and means that I'm looking to move forward and address it. So I want all of these beautiful, wonderful things and all of these great possibilities and opportunities. And I'm going to have to figure out how to make it work.
Amazing. Amazing. And I love that advice, transform the but to an and, because it changes the energy of the conversation. It helps to pull out the self doubt. That is one way to override that amygdala, to override that fear that sets in instead of going into a downward spiral of, but this, but that. I'm going to do this and I need
Yes.
to research this. I'm going to
Yes.
do this and I need to speak with my children about it. And
Yes.
yeah, it's beautiful.
It's solution oriented. It's positive energy oriented. And I think it's a change of perspective that instead of shutting us down right out of the gate, I mean, heck, before we even open the gate, we're looking to open the gate and see what the possibilities are. And I think one of the things that we lose sight of is that we're still allowed to say no down the road. In fact, I'd rather people say no.
Yeah.
I'd rather people hold the bar so high for themselves that all the boxes need to be checked before they take that job, before they move into the new neighborhood, before they enter into a real life commitment in a relationship, before we need to be real clear on what's really important to us. So when we are faced with those important decisions, those big changes that require us to put that stake in the ground that you talked about earlier, to move forward, to do it, that we're saying yes only when it checks our boxes of what's most important.
And, and yes, check all the boxes, but don't allow all the boxes to hold you back. to be an
Oh,
excuse for not moving forward, right?
yes.
Because there must be other things I haven't considered.
Oh,
Sometimes I think that we do look for an excuse to not make the leap. I mean, everything, it's too good to be true. All of the things.
all
So,
of the
your
things.
book and your coaching both focus heavily on the concept of finding your next. That's your book, right? So,
That's my
can you
book.
explain what this philosophy entails, finding your next, and how it can help individuals to prepare for their own transformational phases?
Absolutely. Thank you. So obviously, the book, Finding Your Next, came from the huge transformation that I had gone through, where I realized, boy, did I find my next. And then I started really breaking down the process and realized that not everybody has to make a huge transformational change like I did to find their next. That actually it's a very normal, very recurring part of our lives. We find our next over and over and over. At least I think we should. I think life is an opportunity to explore different potentials and opportunities. And therefore, we're not doing the same thing over and over and over again. So there are smaller nexts, and I spell next as NXT, capital NXT, because it's intentional, because it's about really making a conscious decision that I'm stepping from here to here into this next stage or phase or part of my life.
And it feels like a statement, NXT.
It is a statement. It is intentional, and it comes with clarity. It comes with information, and it comes with criteria that we're going to make a decision and we're going to do something. So what I learned through the process that I went through is that it's a pretty normal process. I'm really not all that special. I'm really pretty ordinary in terms of the process of change. And I came to understand that finding your next is just code for change, right? Because we change all the time. We make decisions from the time we get out of high school. Talk about finding your next. What am I going to do? Am I going to move out of my parents' house? Am I going to go to college? Am I going to get a job? What's my next? And then from there, we then are okay. I've been doing this. Now maybe I am in college. Maybe I've been working in the same job for 4 or 5 years. Okay, what's next? And then we do that. And I tell you, I've got a lot of clients who are in their mid-30s who've now been working for like 12 years, 15 years, and they're asking themselves, hmm, what's next? How do I capitalize on what I've learned, what I've experienced, who I've become? I'm not the same person at 35, 36, 38 who I was when I was 22, 23. And boy, didn't that feel like a big decision at that point of what was next. Like, oh my goodness, the pressure, the paralysis, right? We always feel that when we're looking at what's next. So the process is something to be learned so that we can do it over and over and over again. Because I hope everybody gets lots of dreams and I hope everybody gets lots of next, because then we're living a very full and exciting and fulfilling life.
I love it. One thing that we talk about here a lot is turning around and taking a look back. What
Mm.
is your life's PhD telling you? How has your PhD in life set you up? What lessons have you learned? And how can you take all of that and move forward? And I'll say now into your next.
Yes. And I love that concept. I actually have a chapter about that in the book. It's just worded a little differently.
Sure.
And it's about your life comes with you. And we have a tendency to believe that when we're stepping into a next, we have to start from scratch. And to your point, oh my goodness, can we just give credit to all of the life experience, lessons, and wisdom that we've gained along the way, the PhD,
Yeah.
and bring it with us and make the choices and define those skills and those strengths and define it in a way that allows us to bring it along with us so our life comes with us. Leave the crap behind, by the way, that you did that you don't want to bring with you. You're allowed to
Right?
make that choice, but then bring all the good, juicy stuff with you
Yeah.
and apply it.
Yeah.
Apply it. I mean, who the heck was I, a nice suburban girl, CEO of a company, to step onto 35 acres and decide I'm going to ranch and farm? I had never, ever done anything like this before. And I was scared. And I was like, who the heck am I? A lot. Until I realized I got to bring my life with me. And then I did have a PhD in a lot of different skills because I'm a great organizer. I'm a great business leader. I'm a great coach. I'm a great party planner and event planner. And we run an Airbnb here too. And I'm a great mom and caregiver. So taking care of animals, baby goats, seriously, not such a jump, not such a difference, I gotta tell you. So once I identified who I was and the skills and strengths I already had, I just needed to bring them with me and apply them.
Yeah. Beautiful. You've already got all the meat. All
Yep.
you needed was to change the view. That's it.
A great description. It
Yeah.
is. I think it's that movement. Often with my coaching clients, what I will suggest when somebody is stuck, because we all get stuck, right? It's just part of the process. It's life. We get stuck and we get really comfortable where we are. And we think if we're going to do something, it has to be the way I've done it before or the way others have done it. And like I said before, I'm a make shit up kind of gal. So I like that. So I'm always looking for a different way, but I can still get stuck. Everybody gets stuck. So what I'll do with my coaching clients sometimes is I'll say, okay, now you're looking at things in one way. I'm kind of on a swivel chair here, so I'm going to move. So what if we just shift and we look about 20 degrees to the side? Your view just changed. Now what do you see? Now what's getting in your way? Now what are the opportunities? And what comes with you and what do you leave behind? Just that little shift of the way we look out into the world oftentimes gets us unstuck.
Yeah. So beautifully said. So beautifully said.
Thank you.
So I want to go back to your ranch for a moment because you offer a very unique 2 day coaching experience called the Immersion at your ranch, CC Blue Ranch. So, what does this program, this immersion involve? And how do you feel like the setting of being on your ranch enhances the whole experience?
Ah, you know, this was part of the designing of the life that I wanted to live, to give people the opportunity to get coached for the life they want to live. Now, I took 10, 12 years to design this amazing piece of property. It's gorgeous. We have magnificent views. We have animals in a barn. We have cows, we have chickens, we have goats, we have pigs, we have miniature horses and miniature donkeys. We have a goose named Debbie who kind of runs the place, I got to tell you. And we've
Say
got
we
this
have a goose named Debbie, period. That's the end.
that's
Thank you,
it. I
ladies
mean,
and gentlemen.
Debbie is Debbie. Debbie thinks she's a horse one day, a pig the next. She hangs out with all the different animals. Love Debbie. And we've got a beautiful guest facility and a garden and a greenhouse. And we have developed an environment that is a lifestyle that we want to share with people. We, my partner Matthew and I. And we designed it with that in mind. So I coach. Okay. I took all the years of business experience that I have, life experience that I have, mentoring. I early on got a master's in social work, wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. Came in really handy running a business, really handy on coaching. And I was always meant to do this, right? So I was trying to figure out a way to blend the coaching aspect of what I do and do well with the environment that we created at CC Blue Ranch and give people the opportunity to come here and get away, get away from their current reality. Because I got to tell you, finding your next is big enough, but to have to be in the state of what you do day in and day out, it's almost impossible to open yourself up to the possibilities and gain the kind of clarity that you need to create the path to move forward when you're in that current reality. So we bring people here, but the real unique part of it is that it's either one-on-one, couples, or business partners. I don't coach groups. And there's nothing like this out there where you come to a facility, well, it's our home, and we put you up, we pamper the heck out of you, we feed you, we take great care of you, and then you coach all day with me. And we take walks. We go pet the goats. We get you to a point where one-on-one, which is very brave for somebody to come here, by the way, by themselves, but it's pretty darn inviting. Matthew and I are really nice, and we take really good care of people. And you get to meet me up front. So it's not like you're walking into a stranger's, environment, their home. And I get to say yay or nay, by the way, because this is our home. So there's sort of a pre-immersion process to make sure that this is a good fit, because the coaching is so personal, so one-on-one, so all about you, that it's all about moving forward too. I get all the background information before anybody steps foot on the ranch, because we can't affect change about what's already happened. We need to understand your life and where you came from and all that you've achieved and done and what some of those things are that have gotten in your way and maybe why you're stuck. But I can't do anything looking backwards. I can understand it, and it then informs us so that everything from the moment someone steps onto this property is about moving forward, finding that path, figuring out what's next. And it
It sounds
works.
heavenly.
It's so fulfilling. It's so beautiful a process. And and if you go to my website, there are all these testimonials from people who have come, and they're all so upbeat. And everybody thinks it's when they're going to come here, at least a few people, like, I thought it was going to be boot camp. You're going to break me down and then build me up. And I'm like, my point is not to break anybody down. It can be somewhat emotional at times, somewhat, I do believe that it can be very therapeutic. I don't do therapy, but I do believe it's therapeutic. But
Yeah.
the whole point is that when somebody leaves here, they're on a high. They've got clarity. They can see what's in front of them. And then I can coach with them with all that deep-seated, information and information about what's important to them moving forward to make sure that they can get where they're going.
And the beautiful word that I've heard you say over and over and over again in our conversation is clarity.
Clarity.
And we don't know necessarily how to get clarity, but I've heard a few things in our conversation that I think really help to pinpoint that. One is to get out of the environment that you're used to being in, because
Yes.
we do become so tunnel vision to our routine, right? Another thing that you talk about is changing the view and immersing yourself in nature. And that is everything about the ranch and
Yes.
the therapeutic aspect of being with animals, of being in nature. All of that encompasses the energetics that I love so much. And when you're going through that, without being, say, an EMDR therapist,
Yep.
you've got the eye movement as people are talking and, letting things out. And it's not a breaking down, it's an allowing, it's an opening, and it's a releasing. So you can become, so you can find the clarity to see the next step on the path forward. It's so beautiful. I'm covered in chills.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I am every time I do an immersion, every time somebody comes to the ranch. And I think the other component that I think is incredibly important is that it's safe. I think that opening, that release, that visioning that can happen, and not to get too woo-woo because we get into the details too of, okay, how much is that going to cost you? And what if we don't talk about money? We're in the clouds. So
Yep.
this needs to be real. This needs to be the clarifying points of this need to be tangible and reachable. I don't want to set somebody up for some kind of dream that is some kind of fantasy.
Yeah.
I think dreams can be made to come true. And that's the whole point. I just I just want people to understand deeply and clearly what's important to them on how they want to design the next phase of their life. I don't care what age they're at. I don't care what phase of life they're at. I don't care what their finances look like because it's all about them. We're going to figure out what meets their needs.
Yeah.
It's all about them. There's no magic like vision out there or magic formula. There is a process that we go through, but there's no magic formula that everybody's supposed to fit into. There are no shoulds around here. Mm-mm.
Yes. Yes.
We don't
I
should
love it.
all over ourselves. Mm-mm. We
No
figure
way.
out we figure out the coulds and where the possibilities are, not the shoulds. I don't care what mama says. I don't care what, your kids are telling you. I don't care what your boss is telling you. This is about you.
And the reality is, Cindy, that all the dreams are possible. It
Yep.
literally is just figuring out the path from point A to point B,
Yes.
right? And so if you don't have the clarity in the path, that's where you need to start and figure out, what's the next foothold.
Yes.
And so you're not figuring out, okay, how do I get from here to being a princess in England, or right? It is literally, how do I get from here to the first foothold that is maybe, I don't know. I'm just even just making this up as we're talking, but how do I get from here to understanding my finances? How do I get from here to even deciding what I want my next step to be, my next life's vision, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people come here um focused on work, focused on getting a job, making a career change. Um, and that's great. Sometimes people come here with an idea for a business or an idea for the next job that they want, and they just really want some clarity to figure out if they're qualified or how to write their resume in a way. The point is, it's oftentimes a very tactical approach out of the gate. I want to be a program manager in finance with a title of senior director of, and I want to earn X, and I want to work, on my own schedule, and this is the vacation that I want, and these are the benefits that I want. Very tactical, very, very specific. And part of my job is to kind of blow that up a little bit and blow it up in a way that doesn't say wrong, doesn't say, ooh, bad idea. No, 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 no. We might get there, but let's back it up. Let's back it up and ask the why. Let's back it up and ask, how do you thrive when you're working? Because oftentimes people who come with that specific a game plan of what they're looking to achieve, that's based on everything they've already done and what they know to be true.
Or what someone's told them they should do or they're good at, right? And it has nothing to do, oftentimes, with their strengths, with what they love, with what lights them up. And so I love that you say you kind of blow it up by saying that's all great.
Yes,
And what's your bigger why? Why do you want to do that? What's your life going to look like when you achieve that place, right? So,
exactly. What's
yeah.
behind it? We don't get the chance to ask why. We don't get the chance to dig down a little deeper under the surface and question and explore and look for the reasons and the opportunities. We don't get to do that on a regular basis, and we don't have a lot of people in our lives that we can do it with. I- Doing it by yourself is almost impossible, I gotta say, because we're talking to ourselves. So we've got the same voices in our heads. We've got the same script running behind the scenes over and over again. And one of the reasons that people work with coaches is because you've got an outside objective voice with your best interest in mind who you can talk to. So coaches are very common for people in their jobs. And sometimes we get life coaches for those big kinds of life changes. I think they're all kind of related. I think life isn't about balancing between work and life. I think that sets up a very weird duality, like work is separate from the life I live. And so it's kind of like the scales of justice, right? Where we're trying to balance those out. And I think it's a setup. I don't think it's real. I don't think the term work life balance means what we think it means. And I was a proponent of that in my earlier career. And I apologize because I think it sucks. And I think it sets us up. I think what we need to think of is blend, life blend. And so I think about life now instead of the scales. My visual for me is a big stew pot. Okay. And I try and throw a bunch of ingredients that are going to make the most delicious stew life I possibly can. So work then becomes an ingredient in the pot. Then we throw in our families and the fact that you might like to exercise or travel or your friends or you're into Pilates or I don't care what it is, but those are all ingredients. So we end up with the vegetables and the broth and we throw in some spices because we want a delicious stew and some herbs for that kind of, lusciousness. They all go together and they should create a blend because that's the reality of what life is. It's not either or. We don't want to pit work against our life. It's a part of our life. So I'd love for people to set up work with the same way of thinking about the time that they spend exercising or traveling or going to the theater or hiking a mountain as just embellishing their life and making it more delicious. Why shouldn't work be a part of that at the same level?
Yeah, absolutely. So beautifully said. And I feel that you're such an intuitive because every time I get ready to ask you another question, you just go on and answer the question, right? So the last question I was going to ask you was going to be about, you mentioning Matthew and how important do you feel a support system or a partnership is in pursuing a new life chapter, a new business venture? And you just went on to answer that question so beautifully without me even asking. And so, there is also a very intuitive nature to you that when you're spending time in someone's energy, I can see that you're also intuitively reading what maybe isn't being said.
Thank you. I think what you just touched on too is, look, a lot of us focus on work in our lives. What are we doing? And I understand we spend a tremendous amount of time working. So it's a big ingredient in our stew, right? So is our relationship, our major primary relationship, our family relationships, our friend relationships. And so is our lifestyle. All of those are the three different components that get affected by any change you make to find your next. And there's overlap in all of those. So I couldn't do the ranch and become the rancher coach that I am without my partnership with Matthew, because Matthew is a huge part of the lifestyle that we've created. So the work, the relationship, and the lifestyle are all so tremendously intertwined in what we do. And they all have to be considered when finding your next. So part of the process of coaching and part of the process of the immersion is really diving into what's most important in those three areas. So even somebody who's coming to the ranch to try and figure out what their next career move might be, we delve into the other two as well, because any decision you make about work is going to affect your relationships and affect your lifestyle. And isn't the point of all of this to create the life we really want?
Yeah, that's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. So I know that we're coming to the end here, and I wanted to ask, is there anything that you'd like to offer listeners?
Thank you. I would like to offer something to the listeners, because I think if you've spent the time on this podcast and you're at all intrigued about maybe coming to the ranch for an immersion, then I would like to offer a 15% discount to anybody who even just mentions this podcast and that they listen to it, because I think you're already a step ahead. And it would be a pleasure to have a conversation to see if either coaching or coming to the ranch for an immersion is something that would be a good fit. So the book, if you don't mind, is
Not at all.
called Finding Your Next: When You're Ready for the Life You Want. The website to find me and to just let me know that you're interested in having a conversation and get that 15% from this podcast is called Finding Your Next. And it's Finding Your Next with an NXT. I would
Beautiful.
love to have these conversations. Love it.
So the link to your website, Finding Your Next with an NXT, is in show notes. And I encourage everyone just to click on it and take advantage of the possibility, right? Have a conversation that doesn't commit you.
Oh,
Just allow this conversation that we've had here today to kind of let you start finding movement in the possibility that even you have a next. Everyone has a next, and the possibilities are endless. And so allow this conversation and the generosity of the 15% discount by mentioning Women Finding Clarity podcast. It's just so generous, and it just allows for everyone to feel into it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all your wisdom. I 100% now have an immersion on my bucket list to come to your ranch. So I might be the first person who signs up for a conversation. I
That
can
would be
see that
incredible.
every 5 years, I could be back on the ranch, or every 3 years, just to kind of say, okay, here's where I've arrived. What's my next? What's my next 3 years? Where do I want to be in 3 years?
Absolutely. I have CEOs of their own companies who come to the ranch annually, and we talk about what's next for them, but what's next for their business.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful retreat.
And the reality is, if I'm not taking care of myself, and if I'm not growing and learning and evolving, how can I possibly expect to be able to care for my clients and continually help them grow and learn and evolve?
Absolutely. I hope we all have next. I hope
Yes,
we do. Otherwise, we're settling. I don't want to settle. You want to settle? No.
I want to next.
You want to next? Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
this
you,
time.
Cindy. Thank you for being here. This was an amazing conversation.
For me too.
So, what is your next? This conversation truly energized me, and I hope it did the same for you. Cindy is absolutely incredible. Just a reminder, there's a link in show notes to schedule your complimentary Biz Clarity session so we can create a mini plan for your true wealth. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Good night. Thank you for being in our Women Finding Clarity community. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite listening platform and share it with someone you know so they can find clarity from the conversation as well. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. See you next week.